Hi everyone, this is Perfume Coast, so welcome to my channel. I continue talking about powder profile, and today I've decided to dedicate this video to Vanille Sweet department. So without further ado, let's dive into the ocean of perfumes. And the first perfume I'd like to introduce to you, well, doesn't really need any introduction because that's how popular it is. Nonetheless, the fragrance I'm going to talk about is called Dama Bianca, and it belongs to the famous line Casamorati by equally famous house Xerjoff. And as always, let's take a quick look at the note sets Fragrantica's listing. So on the top we've got kumquat and lime, in the middle there's violet, Italian iris, lilac, Egyptian jasmine, lily of the valley. And finally in the base we've got vanilla, malt, white musk, ambrette, sandalwood and cedar. Well, this fragrance opens up juicy, powdery and sweet, the likes of crystallized vanilla sugar. This sugary note is quite prominent here, and its combination with powdery accord that gives off this vanilla custard sugar vibe. Initial juiciness is coming from kumquat apparently, which also lends a bit of bitterness. So what you're dealing with here is this beautiful powdery concoctions of sugary sweet vanilla softened by slightly bitter juicy touch. And that's how the scent remains, except for it gets slightly smoother and better blended, plus juiciness does tone down a bit too. So this powdery scent is quite delicate whilst remaining strong. In other words, it's lacking the usual sharpness that many powder-forward perfumes deliver, which sometimes I like as well. And this is, in my mind, due to the fact that the powderiness here is delivered by violet instead of iris. So this is my own theory, but in my view, violet is more of this foundation note, which is aimed at creating powder-forward perfume and aura, as compared to iris, which is a more characterful note and the one less dependent on other notes. It usually is the main player compared to violet. So this scent is extremely long-lasting, it lasts you all day literally, and it happens to be my favorite vanilla scent as well. So overall, this is your vanilla sugar powder that's a bit gourmand and crystal clear as well. Next up is another brilliant release along the same lines from the house BDK, and it's called Vanille Leather. And as usual, let's take a quick look at the notes that Fragrantica is giving us. So on the top we enjoy violet and pink pepper, in the middle there's tuberose, orange blossom and jasmine, and finally in the base there's vanilla, orris, leather, benzoin, oak and patchouli. So as far as this fragrance is concerned, this scent is vanilla on quite a dense leather/suede base. To my nose, it's 50% vanilla, 50% leather, which is also supported by the perfume's name, by the way. So in the opening, slightly smoky leather accord gives vanilla this density and gooiness. At the same time, this vanilla is not overly sweet at all. To me, it reminds this delicious toffee-based sauce you may be served alongside your delicious dessert. Or another impression I could come up with is quite simply sticky toffee pudding, well, less sweet perhaps. So if we break down leathery component here, as said before, it's rather suede type of leather, and this suediness is exactly what delivers this powdery texture and gooiness to our sticky toffee pudding impression. I've heard multiple reviews dedicated to the scent, by the way, and a lot of times people are mentioning that they can hardly detect any leather at all, whilst to me this fragrance is largely about leather, equally about vanilla as well. By the way, please feel free to share your thoughts and comments in this respect. But getting back to this fragrance, so this fragrance, as far as I remember, used to be Harrods exclusive initially, and Harrods of course is this UK-based luxury supermarket brand. But now, fortunately, this scent is available worldwide. So closer to the dry down, vanilla is a bit toned down, and instead smokiness gets amplified, And that's what you're dealing with basically for the rest of the day. Next up, we have designer release of the famous line La Vie est Belle. And the line belongs to the Lancôme brand, and the fragrance is called Absolu. So let's find out which notes are in this fragrance according to Fragrantica. So on the top there's allegedly blackcurrant, fig and orange blossom. In the middle there's again orange blossom and jasmine. And finally in the base there's iris, gourmand accord and patchouli. So this fragrance starts off with this sparkly citrusy berry forward opening. Fruit here is along the lines of blackcurrant with a bit of sourness and bitterness. I can also smell iris right away as it gives this velvety moorish texture and complements nicely this bright citrusy fruity opening. The imagery that comes to mind is this sparkly fruity drink with a bit of citrus, and you're drinking it while you sit in a velvety and even suede environment, the likes of curtains or furniture perhaps. Well, I hope I'm still making some sense here. Or another impression that comes to mind is this fruit-scented cosmetic powder perhaps. And this is how the scent remains for about an hour, after which it shifts to its true La Vie est Belle DNA, where the iris accord subsides a bit. And in the deep dry down, what you're dealing with is a bit designery, gourmand forward profile rather than powdery one. But no worries, iris abandons this scent very, very gradually. So most part of this fragrance lifetime is still quite powdery, and at the same time this fragrance is multifaceted this way, which may suggest its ambition to live up to the expectation from the niche public. So overall, this is your berry forward powdery scent that has proven to be also quite popular and mass appealing as far as this line is concerned. Next up, we've got release, which is quite similar to the La Vie est Belle one, and it's by the house Juliette has a gun, and it's called Lipstick Fever. And as always, let's take a look at what Fragrantica is listing us in terms of the notes. So the opening is quite fruity, therefore on the top we've got raspberry and violet. In the middle there's iris and patchouli, and finally in the base there's cedar and vanilla. As said before, this scent is quite similar to the previous one. However, the opening is a bit more bitter and creamy. So this perfume is your sweet, fruity, powdery profile, which this time around resembles another cosmetic product, namely lipstick, as the name suggests. Also, iris here is a lot more toned down as compared to Lancôme release, perhaps because of high concentration of creaminess and fruitiness. So compared to Absolu, this one is a bit linear, and iris notes last here till the very end, even though it's a lot more quieter compared to the La Vie est Belle release. So it's your slightly powdery, creamy, bittersweet, luxurious lipstick, which is red, and this impression lasts from start to finish. And finally, to wrap this video up, we've got another forgotten, I'd say, release by the house Reminiscence. The fragrance belongs to the line Le No Gourmand, and it's called Dragée. So let's take a look at the notes that Fragrantica is listing here, as always. So on the top we've got mandarin orange, cardamom and petitgrain. In the middle there's almond blossom, orange blossom and plum. And finally in the base there's vanilla, musk and cedar. So this fragrance is the least powdery one, but I've decided to include it in this video anyway, just because the role powdery accord is playing here is not the main role, but the one supporting fluffiness and airiness of the beautiful sweet floral gourmand scent. So it starts off with this sweet, slightly lactonic accord with a bit of citric fruit, namely mandarin according to Fragrantica, which is extraordinary ethereal and fluffy. And this impression is achieved by powdery accord. So we do not necessarily observe any usual iris or violet-like suspects here, which normally deliver powderiness. And that alone suggests that powder effect is achieved by something else. Namely, I assume this is a combination of woody notes and the kind of musks that are used here. But this is exactly how the supporting role of powder accord is achieved here, without dominating the composition overall. So the scent is pretty beautiful. There is no significant, change as the scent goes, except for it gets extremely well blended and harmonious. But there you go, guys. This is the last fragrance for today. If you've liked the video, if you found it of any value, please give it a like, please subscribe to the channel, please provide your comments, if any. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.